I'm Taylor Vick, and this is the Real Estate Fund Insider. We're pulling back the curtain on how to grow wealth and passive income through real estate investment funds. As our investors know, and a lot of other real estate investors, we're a big believer in prop tech, which stands for property technology. It's something that's allowed us to cut down on management fees, operate more efficiently, and just be better at what we do. Today, I'm excited to have Willz Tolbert with us. He is the founder of INFILL, a property technology company, and he's going to be telling us about the industry, property technology, his app, and all other aspects of it. So, Willz, thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'll give a little background on myself. So I started off in commercial real estate as a broker, working for Lean Associates here in Greenville, and then basically as soon as I could go out on my own, I did. I was able to get some sweat equity and some land assemblages in the west end of downtown Greenville 5 or so years ago. And then when I had some capital and naturally I wanted to grow my brokerage, I started looking into prop tech because I didn't want to become an administrator and managing a bunch of back office tasks and whatnot.
Sure.
So that kind of led me down the path of prop tech and haven't really looked back since. So.
Awesome. So you just hustled really hard, got something good built up, started working on it, and realized, hey, there's this whole world of property technology that can benefit me. Maybe I can do something to benefit other people with it.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I was super naive going into it at the beginning. I knew nothing about software development, coding, or any of that. So it was a very steep learning curve, but I'm very passionate about it and just kind of followed that.
So why don't you tell us, what prop tech or property technology is? Kind of give us an overview. I know at Blue Ridge, there's various things that we've used, from smart locks, which lets us get rid of keys, give tenants the advantage of being able to open the lock with their phone, lets us do remote showing so we don't have to have property managers out there. Also, we've used a lot of payment portals to make payments easier for our tenants, which in turn makes us a lot easier for us to collect rent, both from just getting it in and man hours committed. So that's some of our experience with the property technology, but why don't you give kind of just an overview of what prop tech is?
Yeah, so like you said, property technology is it's a broad term, right? So you can kind of divide it up into residential and commercial. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of different applications, and primarily it's used to streamline different activities and tasks and make your processes more efficient.
When we think about residential properties versus other investments, the residential is much more management intensive, and that has really led us down the path of property technology too. Is that one of the reasons why it's more popular with residential as well? Just because there's a lot more processes and things to streamline there, or is it just more about the data availability?
Yeah, so what I do is mostly we're focused on like the data side, so mm-hmm. I'm kind of in the weeds with the data, but residential data, there's less of it. There's less kind of attributes and things that affect the asset itself, and that data is typically publicly available, whereas lease comps, for example, in commercial is not publicly available, and so that's kind of the difference.
Yeah. So Will, you got this awesome software. It's called INFILL. Like, where does that name come from? I mean, I know it as a real estate industry term, urban infill, kind of real estate, but tell us where the name comes from.
Yeah, so the term infill from a real estate point of view is basically underutilized property. Right. So it could be like a vacant lot between two buildings kind of in an urban setting. So when you develop on that infill lot, you're essentially connecting those buildings together and creating kind of a unified skyline. And so we like the name because we think that our role is to kind of connect the dots between different software systems and kind of bridging that gap. So that's where we come with the name.
Oh yeah, it's like you're walking downtown and there's a bunch of skyscrapers and a little shanty or something, and you kind of think, man, someone's going to develop that and do something great. I guess that's what you saw with technology. Hey, you've got all this technology here, but there's this piece that's missing to really, connect this, make it what it is. That's an awesome analogy.
Yeah, exactly. And infill lots can be kind of hard to find, and we help you find off-market properties as well.
So that's right. Yeah, you help people find infill deals.
Exactly.
But let's go into your niche a little bit. What is property mapping software, or what terminology would you use to describe it, if not that, and kind of what is it?
Yeah, so real estate mapping software. It's a pretty broad term, right? So, yeah, there's plenty of applications out there that use maps within their application, and it's primarily to access data and analyze opportunities. Where kind of the fundamental difference in what we're doing at INFILL is the current solutions are what we call point solutions, which basically just means that it's a application that the company aggregates the data. They have a finite set of data points that you can interact with, and they have a interface that's very specific to a use case, right? So where that falls short is now that data, you have to log into one application and then to another application, and the data doesn't move between applications. And this is a notorious problem in commercial real estate technology. And so how we're approaching it is just fundamentally different in that we're building a real estate data platform, right? So it's, when you look at it, it's very simple. It's think about Google Maps meets Google Sheets, right? But the key difference is we allow the user to connect different data sources kind of a la carte. So what data might be interesting to you might not be necessarily pertinent to someone else on your team or within your organization. So we make it very flexible and allow people to kind of connect their own data sources within a very familiar kind of interface, which is like a map-based spreadsheet.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know one thing that we've loved about INFILL is before, if we're trying to find a property, okay, let's go on GIS. Let's look to see the owner or other attributes. Okay, we've got an LLC name. Let's go to the Secretary of State website or some other search, try to find that. Okay, now we've got, registered agent or someone else. Let's use this directory, software that we have to look up that person's phone number. Let's, mark it on Google Maps so everyone knows which properties we're looking at, and then let's put all that information in a spreadsheet so we can track what we're doing. And so, that's like 6 or 7 different things out there. But yeah, with INFILL, it's all kind of in one place.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think the most common mapping software that everyone's familiar with would be a county GIS website, like you talked about.
Yeah.
The obvious problem there is there's about 3,000 counties nationwide.
Yeah.
So even if you're going from Greenville County to Spartanburg County or to a different state, you're literally having to learn a new mapping tool when you go to each different county. So that's just one of the kind of efficiencies that we bring, where we have 150 million properties nationwide with every single parcel and information on that, just as kind of a base, kind of out of the box solution.
That's awesome. And you guys have some information that I don't really know where you guys get it, but you can also identify like the asset class that it's in too, right? Whether it's like industrial or mobile home, multifamily, self-storage. Y'all are kind of layering in things that really you can't get anywhere else, it seems like, just combining it all in one place.
Yeah, so our, like I said, foundation data set that just comes out of the box has, hundreds of data sets that have been aggregated together, but you can actually access this for free just by going to our website, because that's just how we feel like the publicly available information is table stakes. Everyone should be able to access that easily and quickly, right? And then we're also plugged into a data provider who runs machine learning models that tries to kind of triangulate who's behind an LLC, right, and find out who that true owner is. It's one of the hardest things in real estate to find out who these owners are when they're trying to not be found.
So, Willz, I know what a difference property technology has made for Blue Ridge, from investor portal to payment systems to the smart locks, which save a lot of money and time, and they're a benefit to the tenants. We actually are able to charge the tenants for the use of the lock, and it makes everyone's life easier. It's increased our revenue, cut our expenses. it has made what was very difficult to manage, spread out single family, easier by being able to put information and technologies in one central database. There's so many things that it's done for us, and I'm sure there's so many other things it's done for other fund managers and institutional investors as well. Like, what are some of the really great things that fund managers and professional investors can utilize within the property technology space to help their investments perform better?
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it there. I think the first thing that you want to do is make sure that a lot of your back office paperwork and being able to raise the fund, get the capital in, sign the documents, you want to make sure that that's all in some sort of cloud-based application, not on pencil and paper, as that's obviously error prone and very time consuming. So there's solutions like that. Then you have other solutions like everyone's heard of, CoStar and Reonomy to help you source deals. But kind of where I see the ability to create alpha and actually achieve outsized returns is not just using some of these applications and technologies that anyone can just that has access to, because your competitors are looking at a lot of the same information. So where we see the kind of key opportunity is building your own proprietary database. And you don't have to take my word for it. That's what a lot of the biggest institutions in the world are doing now. But what they're doing is hiring in-house software development teams to kind of find data sources, bringing them into a custom application they build. But that costs millions of dollars, and even if you have the money and resources to invest in that, software development is likely not your core competency, and it can be distracting from your core business. So at INFILL, what we do is we make that a lot easier for you, to where you don't have to hire a single software developer or write a single line of code.
Wow.
That's what we call no code. So that's kind of the platform that we're building.
So I don't know anything about software, especially at an enterprise level, but what it seems to me is there was a point in time, especially big companies, corporations, they would create their own software in-house because they wanted it to fit exactly to them. There wasn't a good market solution for it, where in the past maybe 10 years or so, most companies are now using a third-party web-based software for almost anything from accounting systems, human relation systems. We see that people are moving more and more towards third-party that can provide a better solution than they could make in-house, and they're going to save a ton of money. The fact that there are institutions that are real estate investors developing their own software says to me that the prop tech industry has a lot of room to grow to become what we've seen with, say, something like Salesforce or CRM, that they're no longer going to make it in-house. They're going to go get the third-party solution that is much better than what they could develop. And it seems like INFILL is kind of filling that space.
Yeah, so I think what you said is right. If you look back 10, 20 years ago, a lot of people were just writing stuff down on pencil and paper and storing all their information in a filing cabinet, right? And then so one of the first waves of prop tech was essentially taking that information from your filing cabinet and putting it up in the cloud so that it stays up to date, and you can access it anytime, which was a big benefit, right? And so the big companies like CoStar that you're probably familiar with, what they did is they saw that opportunity and they capitalized on it, and they started kind of building out all these tools and aggregating all these data sets to provide you with kind of a one-stop shop, right? But the problem is where that falls short is that even a multi-billion-dollar corporation like CoStar, they can't access all the data. They can't get it all into one application. Yeah. So you're still stuck going to one application to another to another. Yeah. So now the fundamental problem is the data doesn't move between systems, and that's where the technology is catching up now, where the data infrastructure is there to allow the data to move between systems, and now what we're doing is we're just making that easier for customers.
Gotcha. How can property technology help individual investors? Before I started Blue Ridge, I was investing in real estate on my own, and I read a book. I think it was called like Landlording on Autopilot or something. And I think this book was written like in the 90s. And, it was systems to put in place to help you self-manage efficiently. Back then, I didn't know about property technology. And in retrospect, it's like, man, I probably could have gotten a couple of web-based softwares and been much better off than, reading this old school book and instead of just having a software that can go right away. So what are some good benefits just to even individual investors that PropTech offers?
Yeah, so I think it's even more important for, or maybe not more, but just as important for individuals and your average investor or broker or fund manager to leverage technology. And the reason being is, when I left and Lean Associates and went out on my own, I no longer had the back office support. I didn't have all the resources that some of these bigger companies had. So in order to stay competitive, I had to look towards to PropTech to help me become more efficient, to source deals in a way that I wouldn't be able to just on my own. Historically, some of these software, they've been very expensive, and if you're an individual or you're a new investor, it might be kind of cost prohibitive. But we're seeing the price of data and the price of these applications come down significantly. For example, INFILL is free to get started, right? So I think there's a lot less of a kind of barrier to entry that there used to be, where you had to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 as an individual just to get an enterprise license to some of these software applications. So it's much more realistic to leverage technology. It's much more affordable. And then, of course, if you're trying to hire more brokers or hire more employees, having all your processes documented, having all your data in the cloud and easily accessible, it allows people to work from anywhere. It allows you to expand kind of your footprint much more effectively.
What are the exciting things happening now in PropTech, and what's going to be coming down in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so I briefly mentioned how 10, 20 years ago, the technology industry, they basically were focused on digitizing all the information, taking it from your filing cabinet to the cloud, right? But what that did is essentially it kind of siloed all this data in these point solutions in the cloud, right? So now, if you're looking to get into property technology, like you said, you go to a conference and there's 100 different vendors. You don't even know where to begin. And so what I would suggest is you look to someone or a company who's not just going to list off all the features and all the benefits that their individual point solution can offer, but rather look to someone who's going to kind of show you the entire landscape of the PropTech world, and create a real strategy for, hey, maybe you want to use this technology, this data source, and then integrate all those into a single application. You should look for someone who's not only going to tell you about the benefits of their software, but really give you an overview of the landscape of what all the different data sources are out there, what the different applications are, and create a real strategy behind adopting these solutions, because it is frankly overwhelming. So I think having kind of a more broad strategy and having someone who knows the industry well can kind of help walk you through that and then bring it all into a single application.
Going to a lot of the conferences, like you said, there's like 100 different ones. They're solving problems you didn't know you had. You walk down the line and someone's like, I do background checks on dogs, and then the next person's like, I automate pest inspections, and the next person is, I automate check-in or move in, move out stuff, and you're like, oh, that sounds great. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, that sounds great. And then you think about, all right, what if I do those? And I'm like, gosh, if I do those 4 new passwords, 4 new softwares, 4 new things I have to train people on, 4 new things we have to get residents used to, and I'm like, the cost of doing these outweigh the benefits.
Yeah, and that's been kind of a thesis for INFILL. We've seen this trend of new data sources coming out with, whether it's new machine learning models or IoT devices that can extract some interesting insight that can help you make better decisions. So this trend is only growing. There's only going to be more and more data available. But how I look at it is that data is only valuable if you can make sense of it, right? So what we're trying to do is build a platform to allow you to bring multiple data sources into this single view, so you can actually consume the data in a way that makes sense, right? And I think there are a lot of really exciting things happening in prop tech with the advancement of, like I said, machine learning, IoT devices, computer vision, augmented reality. All of these kind of core technologies are, bringing new data to light and giving you more and more insights, which is exciting. But it's kind of on the tech industry, and it's on us to be able to help the customers make sense of this and come up with a kind of cohesive strategy and plan. So I see in the next 5 or so years, and what we're working towards is that you'll be able to access any data point on any property or any market anytime simply by speaking or by typing into a search bar like a Google search, right?
Yeah.
So we're organizing that data now to be able to enable that in the future.
I was speaking at one, and one of the questions was something around property technology, and basically it was something like, why is real estate so far behind all other industries in technology? And we're in New York, and they probably couldn't understand what I was saying, but I was like, what y'all don't get is all of real estate is different. Everything is unique. You can't approach it like we have robots at BMW. There's so many nuances and differences between every piece of real estate, between every door jamb when we're putting on smart locks, that you can't just snap your finger and get the technology rolled out. I think that's great about what you're saying is, you got to take all of this data, make it understandable, and get it in one place. And I think that can overcome those obstacles of all the uniqueness, because you have all the data on all the unique parts well integrated in one place.
Yeah, I like to make the analogy with the real estate industry from a technology perspective is kind of like the financial industry was back in the 80s, right? So if you can picture, people have pink slips and they're trying to trade stocks on the floor, and they're yelling into their phones. And then very quickly, Bloomberg came out with the Bloomberg terminal, right? But what the fundamental difference was that the financial data, there's a universal language, right? So the terms all mean the same thing. All this data on public stocks is publicly available, right? So they had an advantage there. But what Bloomberg did was they said, we're not going to get all the data and own all the data. What we're going to do is we're going to route all the data into a single interface, which happened to be a computer at the time. So what you're seeing in the industry now is, and what we're working on, is kind of the terminal for the real estate industry, right? So we still have challenges with, you might call it building square footage, and someone in California might call it SFQT, or they might have leases by the month, and you're doing it on an annual basis. So there's a lot of these kind of technicalities that are making it difficult, but the infrastructure is being built now, and we're plugging into that infrastructure to allow users to have more of an a la carte experience and bring data into this single view.
So, a few years ago, Willz, I was looking for a lot of properties off market, and as you know, that's a very difficult task to undertake, especially when, you're going GIS, you're going Secretary of State, you may be using like court retrieval systems, you may be putting stuff in a spreadsheet, and it was research. It was research intensive, time we didn't really have to devote to. But once I got INFILL, it was kind of like, all right, I just like click on it, and now I've got it all. And now, I can store it all here, and I can track it all here. So it's made a big difference for us, especially with off-market properties. And I know there's a lot of other uses too, but what have your clients seen? Like, what are some good kind of success stories with them?
Yeah, so we recently onboarded a client who they're looking for off-market industrial outdoor storage facilities, which is kind of a new up-and-coming asset class that's a lot of people are excited about. So what they did was they manually plotted thousands of potential locations on Google My Maps, right? So they had 11 different maps that they were all,
Right.
that they were manually
We used to do
updating.
that too, yeah.
Yeah, so what we did was we converted those My Maps into what we call map tables, and right away now that they're able to have a kind of a single source of truth for all the properties that they're tracking, that they have under contract, that they've recently bought, and one of the biggest benefits that they're seeing is that they don't have to continuously manually update, oh, did this property sell, did the taxes change here, because our data refreshes automatically.
That's awesome.
Mobile home parks is another kind of niche asset class that there's not a lot of good data on. There's not a lot of good sources that have a comprehensive database of where are these properties actually. So we're continuously adding new what we call templates to our library. So we're adding self-storage facilities, which are also kind of hard to find, right? So a lot of the kind of base use case is, hey, we just want to have a good understanding of where all these properties are. From there, we'll dig in and see, all right, does this match my criteria? How do I get in touch with the owner and kind of start to streamline that off-market acquisition process?
Gotcha. Historically, mobile home parks, single-family homes, those asset classes were mom and pop exclusively. I don't deal in mobile homes. I do a lot of single-family, but my family historically has done a lot of mobile home parks. And the way it used to work is, you buy the mobile home, you get it financed by the guy who owned it before, or you buy some land and put some mobile homes there, or you happen to know the guy that owns it and he sells it to you. It was very completely off the grid kind of thing. And I guess what I want people to understand is that, when you see SFR becoming more popular, you see mobile home parks becoming more popular. Now they're like an institutional asset class. It's not because they've run out of things to invest in. It's because property technology now allows large investors to have the economies of scale to invest in these things. So SFR, you mentioned that's one of the first things that property technology took off in. The information we can get on single family homes is incredible. And the technology we can utilize to make management of a big spread out thing centralized is huge, because before, institutional investors wouldn't do anything but apartment complexes that could support on-site management teams, because otherwise you're running around town, you're losing, wasting money. But now the economies of scale have allowed gigantic companies to say, hey, we can get in here, there's enough efficiencies where it's a good investment for us. And you've got sovereign wealth funds, you've got the biggest investment groups in the world investing in single family assets, probably in mobile home too. I don't know that asset class as well, but I mean, that just reminds me that there's so much more to what's going on in the real estate industry than just, hey, people are investing in different asset classes. It's the technology has allowed those asset classes to become highly profitable and create economies of scale like we maybe thought would never happen.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I mean, the technology has enabled people to be able to have portfolios of properties spread out versus, within a, multifamily apartment complex, right? The economies of scale and the ability to manage an apartment complex is still there, and that's still attractive, right? But it's becoming so popular that everyone's wanting to invest in that asset class, which then compresses the margins, right? So you're trading on really low cap rates, and you better hope that the interest rates don't go up too much, or you're gonna have a hard time, right? So I think when those yields start to compress, firms and institutions, they start to look at other asset classes, and it's kind of the perfect storm with these compressed rates and yields that you're seeing mixed with the technology to allow you to actually manage a portfolio that's spread across the country.
Yeah. I mean, just for us, what we've seen is we built our single family home portfolio to over 100. We did 0 showings, we've had 0 lockouts, we've lost 0 keys, and that's just one piece of technology, the smart locks with self-showing. So, that's eliminated so much work, headache, and overhead that, at a national scale, you can manage a lot of the portfolio aspects from one centralized location. It's crazy.
I think that's a really good point. And then you also think that traditionally in real estate, you're always told to kind of specialize, which I still think is a really good idea, right? Whether it's by the asset class or by the geography. So, when I was starting out, I specialized in the west end of downtown Greenville, which is a pretty small footprint.
Oh, yeah.
But I actually created my own map and spreadsheet, and I knew every single parcel and who owned it, when it traded, and what the comps were. But I couldn't really expand my footprint very much because of how manually intensive that was. And now with some of these technologies coming out, you can understand a new market a lot quicker by looking at the data and understanding kind of what are the population, what are the migration patterns coming in, which markets are hot, what are the rates, et cetera. So I think you're able just to get a lot better understanding of the market, even if you're not in that market.
Yeah. So we've covered how prop tech, how infill can help real estate investors. Let's talk about how individuals can invest directly into prop tech companies. With property technology taking off in such a big way, we see a lot of venture capital going into it. We see a lot of private equity. We see a lot of investment going in there. I think it's a little difficult for non-professional investors to understand what's going on or how to get invested in it. The names, if I listed the top 10 property technology companies, the average person may have heard of none of them. Some may have heard of CoStar or something like that. But, it's business to business, it's within the industry. How can, your regular investor get invested in property technology? What kind of opportunities are out there? How can they take advantage of this industry that's rapidly flourishing from an investment perspective?
Yeah, so investing in prop tech and startups is obviously it's high risk, high reward, right? So you want to know, kind of what you're doing. You likely want to know about the real estate industry itself. Can this, product, this software tool, or maybe it's a hardware tool if you're talking about, keyless entry, et cetera. Right. Is that working for you? Has the team proven that they can build a quality product that adds value, and then you can see the ROI on? I think that's kind of a first step, right? A lot of people talk about product market fit, right? When investing in startups, and if you're an angel investor, an individual investor, the odds are of you finding a company that's hit product market fit, which just means that there's an insatiable demand for this product, and probably the revenue is like a hockey stick already. You're likely not going to be able to invest in a company like that because the venture capitalists are swooping in and trying to invest there. So kind of the next best thing that you want to look for is you want to find the companies that are on the verge of product market fit, right? And how do you evaluate that? I think the next best thing is something we call founder market fit, right? So does the founder have a very deep understanding of the market, and have they proven their ability to build a quality software product? And does it scale? Does it have high margins? These are some of the kind of basic things that you want to make sure before diving into an investment that is a risky investment.
Yeah, gotcha. And that's one thing I like about infill too. Or to most people, they probably don't understand this, but it's one thing that makes it really good is that it came directly from you being a real estate investor and needing a solution. Where when I talked about the people who are strictly software people, like what's wrong with you real estate investors? Why aren't you using technology? You guys are so behind. It's like, no, you guys don't understand the problems that is with your technology. So the problem is you, not us, right? But you coming from the industry, being an investor, I think that's one thing that's made infill so great, because you knew exactly what needed to happen there.
There is a ton of value in having someone, having a founder come from the industry that understands what the use cases are, what the problems are, and is solving actual real problems. Like you said, I put the onus on the tech industry, not necessarily on the real estate industry to develop or to adopt technology, rather on the tech industry to develop solutions that are easy to understand, easy to onboard, that actually solve real problems. And I think that's where there's a bit of a disconnect.
So with all that said, like, what is a good client for you? Like, if someone out here has heard something that sparked their interest, if someone says, man, that makes a lot of sense, what would be, maybe the questions they should ask themselves, or what would lead them to decide if INFILL was a good fit?
Yeah, so our ideal client is, mid to larger investors, right? So fund managers, investors, and brokerages who are looking to kind of accelerate their off-market acquisitions, right? So anyone that has a property database and is spending too much time manually updating it and wants to find off-market opportunities, INFILL is definitely a great fit for you.
Great thing about it, it allows you to make more money.
That's it. Yeah, that's it.
Find more properties, do more deals.
That's right.
Willz, man, thanks for coming on today. Always good to see you. Very exciting stuff. Tell us how we can get in contact with you or keep up on INFILL.
Yeah, so you can check out our website at getinfill.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. My name does have a Z on the end, so it's Willz, W-I-L-L-Z, Tolbert. So if you can look me up on LinkedIn, add a connection request, send me a message, I'm happy to connect.